The docking bay of Zerith Prime hummed with metallic echoes as Lieutenant Arya Vance stepped onto the grated floor, boots clicking in steady rhythm. She carried a small carrier at her side, lightweight, compact, and entirely unremarkable except for the faint, inquisitive meow inside. That single sound halted half the bay. A group of Zeltari technicians paused mid-scan, necks craning with bird-like sharpness. A trio of Threxian soldiers stiffened, hands drifting to sidearms as if the carrier held a volatile explosive rather than a domestic earth feline. Arya kept walking, letting the eyes follow. She'd grown used to that look, wariness laced with disbelief, as soon as alien officers learned humans kept micro-predators as companions. A deep, gravelly voice broke through the murmurs. "Lieutenant Vance!" Commander Threx Kalkaran strode toward her, armored plates shifting with each step. His crimson eyes narrowed at the carrier. "Explain that creature." Arya stopped, straightened her posture, and kept her voice even. "Personal companion animal. Species Felis catus. Name Milo. A pet?" Threx's mandibles clicked. "On a research vessel? Humans continue to surprise me with your lax biological standards." Arya offered a calm smile. "He's fully vaccinated, microchipped, non-reactive, and registered through Union interspecies companionship protocols. Paperwork should already be on your terminal." Threx didn't look convinced. Milo punctuated the exchange with a lazy chirp. One soldier muttered, "It's so small. How does it survive?" Arya resisted the urge to laugh. "Adaptability. A defining human trait." She walked past them and kept moving. Whatever comments followed faded into the metal corridors. Humans rarely impressed other species physically, but nothing irritated Arya more than having Milo dismissed as useless. If anything, the cat handled deep space travel better than most cadets. The corridor opened into the ship's primary laboratory, a sleek chamber lined with holographic datasets. Screens displayed spiking energy readings from the recently surveyed Velcara station, an abandoned outpost orbiting a jungle moon thick with life no one understood. Dr. Salvaris, the Zeltari chief biologist, fluttered her translucent crest as Arya approached. "Ah, the human arrives. And your Fangbeast as well." Arya set the carrier down and released the latch. Milo stepped out with practiced elegance, stretching, then trotting across the counter like he owned the ship. Salvaris recoiled an inch. "Does it bite?" "He prefers naps." Milo confirmed the statement by curling up near a warm panel, eyes already half shut. Salvaris shook her head. "Humans bring strange things into space." "Strange doesn't mean dangerous," Arya replied. "You'll barely notice him." Before Salvaris could reply, the overhead speakers crackled. "Survey team to transport Bay 3. Repeat, survey team to transport Bay 3. Arya grabbed her pack, secured Milo back into his carrier, and joined the assembled team. The crew moved quickly. This mission had been brewing since they first encountered faint biosignatures inside the derelict Velcara outpost. Something in that station had recently stirred. The transport shuttle descended through thin green clouds and landed at the station's external dock. Lights flickered across ancient walls, vines curling through metal supports. The Velcara left behind structures that blended organic matter with alloy, alive enough to flex, dead enough to crumble. "Milo stays with me," Arya said as the hatch opened. Threx scowled. "If the creature hinders operations, I'll have it ejected." "Understood," she said without looking at him. The air inside the station carried a faint metallic tang. Their steps echoed through a corridor covered in bioluminescent spores that pulsed with each movement. Milo pressed against the mesh of his carrier, ears perked. They reached a central chamber where thick roots converged around a sealed pod embedded in the floor. It resembled a chrysalis made of silvered bone rather than technology. Salvaris activated her scanner. "The structure is dormant. No threat." Milo growled, a sound Arya had only heard twice in her life. Threx folded his arms. "Your tiny beast senses danger? Ridiculous." Arya knelt beside the carrier. Milo wasn't fearful, he was focused. Every hair stood on end, pupils wide, tail lashing. For a creature that usually saved energy like currency, this level of tension signaled something real. She straightened. We shouldn't open that pod until. A tremor rippled through the floor. The pod's outer layer pulsed once, like a breath. Selvari stepped back. That was not in the readings. Threx drew his sidearm. It's old technology. Unstable. Milo hissed sharply, body pressed against the carrier door, claws scraping at the metal. The tremor subsided, leaving an unsettling silence. Arya exhaled. We need to document the pod and return to the ship. Full quarantine protocol. Threx hesitated before nodding. Agreed. Nobody touches it until we run structural tests. As they retreated toward the shuttle, Milo remained alert the entire way back, eyes fixed on shadows behind them. Arya sensed it too, the feeling of being watched. Something in the station wasn't fully dormant. Zereth Prime greeted them with familiar white corridors and the steady hum of stabilized systems. But the stillness on board felt heavier than before. They gathered once more in the laboratory, reviewing scans of the pod. Selvaris frowned at the data. No signs of heat. No cellular motion. It's inert. Arya shook her head. It moved. Threx countered. You imagine things, Lieutenant. Stress impacts perception. Milo hopped from the carrier onto the desk, planting himself in front of Threx. His golden eyes met the commander's unblinking glare. The cat didn't move, didn't blink, didn't break. Selvaris raised a brow. Your creature challenges authority. Milo challenges nonsense, Arya said quietly. Before Threx could respond, the lab lights flickered. Consoles dimmed for a heartbeat. A technician called from across the room. Power fluctuation from the pod's containment crate. Energy spike detected. Arya's stomach tightened. We haven't even touched it. The crate broadcast a low hum, thin at first, then deepening into a resonant throb like a heartbeat syncing with the ship's pulse. Milo leapt onto Arya's shoulder, claws resting lightly but purposefully, an instinctive brace. Threx barked orders. Seal the lab. I want full shielding around that crate. Panels shifted shut, locking in a circular pattern. Shield emitters hummed to life. As the last panel slid into place, the crate rattled. Selvaris gasped. It's waking. Arya stepped closer, watching the faint lines of organic etching glow on the crate's surface. The pod was reacting to something, perhaps exposure, perhaps proximity, perhaps simple time. Milo's fur bristled again. Arya whispered. Something got out. Threx's gaze sharpened. Impossible. The crate is sealed. Then came the sound, so soft she barely heard it, a scraping from inside the walls. Not the crate. Not the pod. The walls. Arya turned toward the corridor beyond the glass. Shadows shifted. Something moved just out of sight. Milo hissed again, louder this time. Arya felt the first true spike of fear since she'd boarded the vessel. Whatever had stirred in that Velcara pod had followed them back. And Milo sensed it before any scanner could. The lab lights dimmed once more. The hum deepened. And in the darkened corridor, something exhaled. The lights returned in staggered pulses, each brighter than the last, until the laboratory regained its sterile glow. Arya scanned the corridor beyond the glass, but whatever had moved was gone. Milo remained perched on her shoulder, muscles taut, eyes fixed on the doorway. Threx's voice cut through the tension. Security sweep the hall. Now. Two Threxian guards rushed out, rifles raised. Their footsteps faded into the corridor as the lab team exchanged uneasy glances. The faint hum from the crate had stopped, but silence only made the air feel heavier. Lieutenant, Selvaris whispered, crest trembling. Something came with us. Arya didn't answer. She didn't need to. Milo's behavior said everything. A sharp tone rang through the ship. Security alert, Deck 4, Section C. Medical personnel to stand by. Threx stiffened. Report. The comm crackled. Found a body, requesting full lockdown. The transmission cut out. Arya didn't wait for permission. She lifted Milo, secured him quickly into his carrier before he could protest, and ran out the door. The corridor felt colder than when they'd left. When she reached Section C, her steps slowed. 2 security officers stood outside the doorway to an equipment room, their expressions grim. One stepped aside to let her pass. Inside, the temperature dropped another degree. The body lay slumped against a storage locker, armor torn through like thin plastic. Deep gashes crossed the chest plate in 4 clean strokes. No serration, no burn marks, no weapon signature. Just raw, terrifying precision. Arya knelt to examine the wounds, Milo pushing against the carrier mesh, tail lashing. This wasn't a tool, she murmured. Something sliced him. Threx entered behind her, silently assessing the scene. Show me the wounds. She pulled back the fractured armor, revealing the smooth cut through the undersuit. Whatever killed him didn't hesitate. It tore straight through composite plating. Fast, accurate, lethal. Selvaris arrived moments later, breath-catching. No ship species has claws capable of this. Arya exchanged a look with her. Not a ship species. Threx's mandibles twitched. Are you accusing the pod creature? I'm stating the facts, she replied. We found a pod. The pod reacted. We had a power spike. Now we have a dead officer. And the human animal sensed it before any of us. Selvaris added quietly. Threx rounded on her. You imply the cat has detection abilities superior to our sensors? Selvaris shrugged, voice low. Sensors missed this creature entirely. The argument ended abruptly when Milo let out a sudden, sharp yowl. The sound wasn't frightened, it was alarm. A warning. Arya turned, following his gaze. The far corner ceiling panel hung slightly open. Threx raised his rifle. Vent system breach? Arya stood, backing toward the doorway. Something is using the vents to move. They all stepped out at once. A thud echoed from inside the vents, traveling fast across the metal ducts. Too fast for anything they knew. The sound shot upward, then disappeared into a higher level. Threx called in reinforcements. All units, seal lower decks. We have an intruder. Arya clutched the carrier close. Milo pressed against the mesh, eyes sharp, pupils narrow. He wasn't scared. He was tracking. The investigation spread across the deck. Security drones scanned ventilation systems while med teams removed the body. Arya remained at the scene until Selvaris approached her with a data pad. The autopsy confirms your theory, she said. The killer used a single strike. No toxin. No hesitation. Predatory behavior, Arya replied. And it's hunting. Selvaris hesitated. It might not be random. Arya frowned. What do you mean? You were the one who studied the pod most closely. You were the one resisting Threx's protocols. She lowered her voice. The creature might see you as a threat. The idea settled like ice in Arya's chest. A Velcara apex predator targeting her specifically? It was absurd, yet not impossible. Before she could respond, a second alarm blared. Emergency alert, Engineering Bay. Medical and security teams report immediately. Arya sprinted toward the bay before Threx could bark an order. The engineering bay was chaos. Tools scattered. Holograms flickering. A cooling pipe vented steam into the air. 2 engineers stood near the central fusion core, shaken but alive. Arya ran to them. What happened? One pointed at the vent above. It dropped out, just a shadow at first. No shape we recognized. We heard claws on metal. The other swallowed hard. We would have been dead if something hadn't distracted it. Something? Arya repeated. Both nodded. A hiss, the first said. From the shadows behind the generator. A small sound. It jumped back into the vent when it heard it. Arya's gaze drifted toward Milo's carrier. Milo sat upright, alert, staring at the same vent the engineers pointed to. Selvaris caught up, crest flaring. Lieutenant, your creature saved them. Arya exhaled slowly. Milo reacts before anything else. He senses it. Threx arrived moments later, glaring at the shaken engineers. You two will file a full incident report. Lieutenant Vance, your animal is drawing unnecessary attention. If it triggers another security breach. Commander, Arya interrupted, tone steady. Milo isn't causing this. He's warning us. He recognized the threat before we understood what we brought aboard. Threx stepped closer. And what exactly do you propose? That we rely on a terrestrial furball instead of Union-grade tech? Arya held his gaze without blinking. When the technology fails, we use what works. Threx's mandibles tightened. I will not have this ship relying on instinctive hissing from a pet. Milo hissed at him right then, sharp, ghost-like, directed at something behind Threx rather than the commander himself. Arya froze. Threx turned slowly. A panel in the far wall trembled. Not violently, just enough to show something was behind it. Then a soft scraping traveled along the metal, rapid and controlled. Selvaris whispered. It's learning the ship? Arya whispered back. It already knows us. Threx barked at the guards. Seal the bay! Now! But before they could, every light in engineering flickered out. Total darkness. A piercing scream echoed from somewhere overhead, cut short as abruptly as it began. Arya grabbed the carrier handle and stumbled back. Milo pressed against the mesh with fierce intent, tail bristling, ears flattened, gaze locked on the ceiling. The emergency lights snapped on. Something heavy dripped onto the floor behind the fusion core. Blood. Selvaris backed away, hand trembling. Commander, we can't see it. We can't detect it. We don't understand it. Threx stared at the vent above, face hardening. Then we hunt it. And we start by removing every variable. He looked straight at Arya. At dawn shift, Lieutenant, your creature is going into containment. Arya held Milo closer. No. Threx's voice dropped. This is not a negotiation. But Milo growled low, a sound that made even Threx pause. Arya met the commander's stare, her voice calm but firm. If you cage him, she said, you'll blind the only pair of eyes aboard that actually knows what we're dealing with. Threx didn't reply. He didn't have to. The creature had tasted blood again. And dawn wasn't far away. Darkness draped the lower decks of Zereth Prime, broken only by flickering emergency lights. The ship's hum, normally steady, felt jagged, as if the metal itself was holding its breath. Arya moved quietly, Milo secure in his carrier, ears swiveling at every echo. Each corridor turned into a gauntlet. Every shadow might conceal the unseen predator that had already claimed 3 lives. Threx's orders echoed in her mind. Remove the cat. Blind the threat. But Arya refused. Milo was the only living sensor aboard, the only creature capable of detecting the intruder before it struck. She tightened the carrier strap over her shoulder and pressed forward toward Deck 4, where recent attacks had left the hallways eerily empty. The first officer's datapad pinged, a live feed from the security drones. Arya studied it. The visuals showed dark shapes moving with speed no sensor could fully capture. Thence shifted as if the ship had become alive, each duct concealing the Fangbeast's sinuous body. It moved deliberately, calculating its attacks, hunting for prey. Lieutenant, Selvaris said, stepping beside her, crest flicking nervously. Every sensor shows nothing. The drones can't track it. The creature knows our patterns, adapts instantly. Arya nodded, eyes on the screen. Which is why Milo goes with me. He reacts instinctively. Sensors fail, instinct succeeds. They reached the engineering bay again. Broken consoles and scorched walls were silent now, but the air still reeked of fear. Milo hissed from his carrier, muscles tensed, gaze fixed on a vent above. He's targeting me, Arya murmured. Milo twitched, confirming the truth in his feline language. Threx appeared then, a shadow stretching behind her, mandibles snapping in irritation. Lieutenant, I warned you. That animal is a liability. It's the only one capable of detecting it. Arya replied, voice firm. Caging Milo won't stop the predator. It'll just give it free rein. Threx stepped forward, sidearm raised. I will not risk the crew for a pet. Before he could move closer, the vent above trembled violently. A scraping, calculated, precise, filled the bay. Milo arched his back, fur bristling, claws flexing as if ready to leap through the air. Arya braced herself. Without warning, the ceiling panel shattered inward. A massive claw swiped across the nearest console, tearing metal and sparking wires. Threx dove backward, firing into the vent, but the creature was gone before the shots hit. Milo let out a piercing yell. Arya unlatched the carrier, letting him leap onto the floor. The cat moved with uncanny precision, ears flattening and tail whipping like a metronome. He padded toward the shadowed vent, ignoring the debris, confident in ways no Union soldier had ever seen. Selvaris whispered, "Lieutenant, he's leading it." Arya's heart pounded. "Exactly. And we follow." The chase began. Milo darted first, small and silent, weaving through corridors too narrow for the Fangbeast to pursue without revealing itself. Arya and Selvaris followed, keeping low. The emergency lights flickered, and the faint metallic smell of blood grew stronger. The creature had been feeding, its strikes methodical, deliberate. In the main access corridor, they stumbled upon two guards huddled against the wall. One shook violently. It hunts by shadow and sound. Nothing else can detect it. Milo, he saw it first." Arya nodded grimly. "He's still leading us." The guards scrambled after them as the feline pressed onward, pausing only to hiss at vents or darken alcoves. Each reaction drew their attention to areas invisible to the naked eye or sensor arrays. Slowly, Arya began to understand Milo's pattern. The cat anticipated the creature's path, forcing it to reveal itself, exposing the gaps in its stealth. Then came a sound like a door slamming in the void. Threx's voice bellowed from behind a corner, rigid with fury. "Stop! You're endangering the mission, and your life." Arya didn't reply. Milo hissed again, leapt toward a vent, claws scraping metal, then crouched, muscles taut, tail swishing. In that instant, a hulking silhouette lunged from the shadows, a Fangbeast, taller than any crew member, sinewy body glinting with lethal intent. Its head twisted unnaturally, eyes locking on Arya. Its claws tore grooves into the deck. Time slowed. Milo darted forward, leaping onto the creature's foreleg. The Fangbeast snarled, striking at the small intruder. Milo twisted midair, claws finding the sensitive joint beneath the thick armor-like skin. The creature yowled, staggering backward. Arya barely had time to act, shouting for guards to fire, but no shots landed. The Fangbeast was already recovering, turning with frightening speed. Milo hissed, leapt again, disappearing behind the massive form. "You see?" Arya shouted, pointing. "He knows exactly where to strike." Threx froze, jaw clicking in disbelief. "It's impossible." "It's instinct," Arya said. "Earth evolved predators to hunt creatures bigger and faster than themselves. Milo's species adapts. He calculates. He acts." The creature roared, slashing blindly, ripping a nearby console to pieces. Sparks flew, sending the corridor into chaos. Arya dodged falling debris, carrying Milo forward. The cat paused, sniffed the air, then hissed toward an upper ventilation shaft. It was bait. Arya realized it. "He's drawing it upward, into the shafts." Selvaris hesitated. "We can't follow." Arya shook her head. "We don't need to. He's the hunter." Above them, the metal groaned as the Fangbeast leapt into the vent. Milo's fur bristled in anticipation, eyes glowing. He didn't follow physically, but every muscle remained tense, tracking. The vent shuddered as the creature clawed its way along, screeching with frustration. Milo let out a long, low growl, a challenge only the Fangbeast could hear. The pause gave Arya a moment to breathe. Guards regrouped, placing themselves strategically along the corridor. Threx muttered, jaw tight, clearly debating whether to interfere or acknowledge Milo's effectiveness. Arya whispered, "Milo's showing us how this predator thinks. Watch the vents, the patterns, the weaknesses." The cat flicked his tail, ears forward. He padded to a vent access panel, pressing against it lightly. The metal vibrated in response. Milo hissed sharply again, and a low, inhuman growl reverberated from inside. Arya's heart pounded. He's right on it. Threx swallowed. That tiny thing is controlling the encounter? Yes, Arya said. He's the only one fast enough to predict and counter the creature's moves. Trust him. From above, the vent panel cracked. A shadow emerged, claws extended, eyes glowing. Milo leapt in front of Arya, fur bristled, stance unyielding. The Fangbeast roared, lunged, and then, almost impossibly, Milo darted out of the way, swiping at a joint in its leg. The creature stumbled, a deep hiss escaping its throat. Selvaris gasped. It's wounded. Arya's pulse raced. He's teaching us the path. If we follow, we survive. If we interfere, we die. Threx's mandibles clicked in frustration, admiration begrudging. He said nothing more, observing the tiny cat orchestrating the hunt. Milo didn't look back. He had one goal: lead the predator where it could be countered, silent, calculating, unstoppable in his own way. Arya realized something profound. Humanity hadn't conquered the stars with brute force or technology alone. It was ingenuity, instinct, and life forms like Milo that gave them an edge. The battle was far from over. The Fangbeast was cunning, adaptive, relentless. But Milo was something the galaxy hadn't anticipated, a predator of instinctive precision, small yet lethal. And as Arya followed, she knew one thing for certain: the unseen hunter would not escape her cat. The corridor was silent except for the hum of failing lights. Sparks drizzled from exposed panels, and the faint metallic scent of blood lingered in the air. Arya crouched behind a bulkhead, Milo perched on her shoulder, ears swiveling toward the shadows. Every fiber of the ship seemed tense, as if it, too, feared the creature that had stalked them relentlessly. Ahead, the Fangbeast prowled, a massive, sinewy predator with eyes like molten amber. Its movements were precise, calculated. It had adapted, learning the ship's layout, exploiting corridors, vents, and blind spots. Each time it struck, it left behind devastation. Yet Milo remained calm, tail flicking, eyes unblinking. Arya whispered, "This is it, Milo. The moment we've been preparing for." The cat hissed low, almost as if acknowledging the weight of those words. Threx and his guards followed reluctantly, forced to keep distance. Every soldier carried weapons, every eye on the creature, yet none could predict its next move. Only Milo did. The Fangbeast's roar echoed, reverberating along the metal walls. Its massive claws shredded a nearby maintenance panel, sparks showering the corridor like rain. Arya held Milo tight, careful not to hinder him. The cat leapt from her shoulder, landing silently on the deck, poised, ready. Then, with astonishing speed, Milo darted toward the vent where the Fangbeast had recently disappeared. The massive predator turned, eyes locking on the tiny threat. For the first time, its movements betrayed uncertainty. Arya's heart raced. He's baiting it. He wants it to strike where it's vulnerable. Milo crouched, tail sweeping behind him. The Fangbeast lunged, swiping at the tiny intruder, claws snapping dangerously close. Milo twisted midair, landing neatly on the predator's forelimb, claws digging into a soft joint beneath thick armored skin. The Fangbeast growled, staggered, but Milo didn't relent. Arya ran after him, yelling instructions to the guards, though she knew it was futile. They couldn't keep up. This battle was Milo's. The cat leapt again, slashing at tendons and pressure nodes along the creature's limbs. The Fangbeast roared, staggering, now aware that its prey wasn't just human, it was a hunter unlike any it had encountered. Threx whispered in disbelief, mandibles clicking. That tiny creature is controlling the fight." Arya nodded without taking her eyes off the unfolding battle. "Not controlling, leading. Milo is showing us how it can be beaten." The predator snapped at Milo, claws missing by centimeters. Milo landed atop its back, precisely targeting a joint on the spine, hissing furiously. Sparks of pain, deep, mechanical, animalistic, shuddered through the Fangbeast. It roared, twisting, but Milo's small frame was impossible to strike. He moved like liquid, a shadow within shadows, striking where the creature was weakest. Arya realized the brilliance of Milo's instinct. Earth's evolution had bred predators small enough to hunt larger prey with precision, and Milo's species had honed that skill over millennia. Technology and raw strength were no match for instinct perfected by survival. The Fangbeast lashed out, but Milo anticipated, ducked, and landed directly on its neck node, a vulnerable spot Arya had noted from the ancient Velcara files. With a single, lightning-fast bite and a backflip to safety, Milo struck the final blow. The creature staggered, a shudder running through its enormous body. Then silence. Arya exhaled slowly, hands trembling. He did it! Milo, he killed it! Threx stepped forward, eyes wide, mandibles snapping. A human cat! He faltered, disbelief and grudging respect warring across his features. It has slain an apex predator. Milo sat calmly, tail curling, ears flicking, golden eyes surveying the devastation. Not a shred of arrogance, only quiet competence. Selvaris's crest quivered in awe. I never believed. I didn't think something that small could defeat such a creature. Arya knelt beside Milo, stroking his fur. Size doesn't define power, Selvaris. Adaptation, intelligence, instinct, that's what matters. She looked at Threx. This is humanity's strength. We survive because we evolve, we adapt, we use every resource, even the smallest ones. Threx finally nodded, slow and reluctant, acknowledgement creeping into his rigid demeanor. Your species, underestimated. His voice dropped, almost a whisper, yet filled with weight. Never again. The aftermath was meticulous. Security teams cordoned off the area, ensuring no secondary threats remained. Engineers repaired damaged panels while medics attended to surviving crew. Data from Milo's movements and the Fangbeast's weaknesses were logged. The ship's AI, previously baffled, now recognized Milo as the first companion species operative aboard a Union vessel. Arya stood on the deck, Milo perched proudly on her shoulder. She allowed herself a brief smile, proud yet aware that the fight had only proven one thing: humanity's edge wasn't in weapons, size, or brute strength. It was ingenuity, instinct, and the life they brought with them into the cosmos. Later, in the officers' quarters, Threx approached her privately. Lieutenant Vance, the Union will recognize your cat. Its actions saved lives and preserved this vessel. Your species has value we cannot ignore. His gaze softened, a rare concession of respect. Do not underestimate yourselves again. Arya inclined her head. We never do, Commander. We just wait for the chance to prove it. Milo leapt onto the desk, circling a datapad with the Fangbeast's movement logs. Arya chuckled softly. He's already analyzing the fight. Every hunter needs a review. Selvaris peered over her shoulder, crest fluttering. The humans brought a creature into space, and it outsmarted a Velcara apex predator. Not just outsmarted, Arya said. It taught us how to survive against threats no technology could detect. That's the point. Word spread quickly through Zereth Prime and the wider Union. Milo was officially recognized as a companion species operative, a small, furred, seemingly innocuous life form that had bested the galaxy's deadliest predator. Humans, long considered weak and expendable, suddenly held new respect. Their ingenuity, adaptability, and the companions they brought with them became a symbol of strength. As Arya watched Milo curl into a contented ball on the desk, golden eyes half closed, she felt the surge of quiet triumph that only a true HFY moment could bring. Humanity had faced the apex predator of an alien world, and survived. Not by firepower alone, but by instincts honed on a blue planet called Earth, and the smallest warrior who had reminded the galaxy that size is never the measure of capability. The ship hummed steadily again. The threat was gone, but the lesson remained: underestimate humanity, and even the tiniest among them, and you risk being proven wrong. Arya whispered, stroking Milo's fur one last time that night. You did it, little one. You saved us all. Milo purred in reply, tail flicking once. Calm, composed, victorious. And in the silent corridors of Zereth Prime, the galaxy finally began to understand why humans, and their companions, were never to be underestimated.